Well, we're back a lot sooner than any of us expected. The Giants are making moves. They move up in the third round of the 2023 NFL Draft. They go from selection number 89 in round number 3 to selection number 73, trading their fourth-round pick, selection 128, on the way. And they select Jalin Hyatt, wide receiver out of Tennessee, with the 73rd pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. I am John Schmeelk, once again joined by my mates here, Shaun O'Hara and Paul Dottino. Gentlemen, this was a player we talked about as a potential second-round pick when they selected John Michael Schmitz. Shaun, he continued to drop down the boards. A very talented wide receiver, 67 catches, 1,267 yards in his third year at Tennessee, 15 touchdowns, over 20 catches of 20-plus yards. Just a very, very explosive player with speed. Ran a 4.40 flat at the combine. He gives the Giants some big play ability outside that this front office and coaching staff has been looking for.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Giants are just checking box after box after box. Corner, check. Center, check. Explosive receiver, check. Listen, Jalen Hyatt is predominantly he was a slot receiver at Tennessee, but had he basically exploded onto the scene in his last year there. 15 touchdowns, as you mentioned. He led the FBS in big plays, led the SEC in receiving yards with over 1,200 yards. So, listen, this guy can flat out fly. And look, we talked about receivers. There's two ways to create separation, with size and with speed. He does it with the speed. And I think when you look at all that big play potential, that big play ability, the explosive plays, the touchdowns, that's exactly what the Giants love. And adding him to this offense is just going to create even more explosive plays. So no doubt this is a big addition for the Giants. I think that they were surprised that he was still available, as you just alluded to. There were a lot of people that had him as possibly the third best receiver in this draft. So you look at that style of offense that they ran with Josh Heupel's offense there in Tennessee, that air raid kind of offense, a lot of vertical routes, really putting a lot of stress on the defense. But when you kind of look at him matched up against some of the best, he set a school record for 5 receiving touchdowns against Alabama. So that's the kind of production and the explosive capability that the Giants just got.
Maybe the most important stat for Hyatt when you look at his 4.4 speed and his elusiveness, Shaun, is the fact that he averaged nearly 7.5 yards after the catch last season in his third year with the Vols. And that is a big deal for the Giants. They want to be able to make some big plays after that ball comes down into the receiver's hands, and that is this guy's specialty. He is 6 feet tall, goes just about 180 pounds, so against press coverage, if he's going to play outside, he is going to have to add a little bit of strength to get off of those defensive backs. Interesting, though, in that his 3 years at Tennessee, nearly 80% of his career snaps with the Vols came out of the slot. But it does appear like his medium size and his speed might be able to translate to the outside along the boundary.
Yeah, on the consensus draft board, which kind of takes what all the mock drafts out there had for players heading in, he was the 42nd player on the consensus draft board. For the Giants to get him in round 3 certainly says it should be a lot of value here for a Big Blue. And you talk about that scheme, what they'll do, they'll what they call stack the wide receiver. So they'll put Hyde in motion, put him behind the outside receiver to give him a free release. So, Shaun, those are some of the things that I think he's going to have to work on in the NFL, right? Working against press a little bit and extending his route tree, because there's really more of a, slant, hitch, post, deep guy. He didn't have a fully developed route tree in that, Art Briles, Baylor type system that they ran for the Volunteers.
Yeah, and I think if you want to be an exceptional slot receiver in the NFL, you've got to be able to adjust on the fly, and you've got to be on the same page with your quarterback. Victor Cruz and Eli Manning won a Super Bowl doing it and made a ton of yards and caught a ton of touchdowns at improvising based on the coverages. Hey, if a corner thinks, or a nickel corner thinks you're going to squat and run an out route, and you see him kind of flat-footed, you know what? If you have the green light to kind of run right by him, those are the kind of things that Jalen's going to have to learn, and he and Daniel Jones are going to have to get on the same page. But as you mentioned, look, he's a little bit green with some of the routes, and he's going to have to learn how to get off some of that coverage. But I think he's got a couple of skill sets that are tough to coach. He does a great job of adjusting to the ball once it's in the air. Sometimes guys struggle when that ball gets in the air. They don't really react to it. They don't respond to it, and they have a hard time contorting their body to make those big catches. But he's got that extra gear. So if you're a quarterback, you can't overthrow this guy. And it shows up on film. All of a sudden, hey, the ball is out there, and he just kind of kicks into that extra gear, finds a way to run underneath that ball. So I think this is a great addition. He comes from a line of athletes. His father was a cyclist, professional cyclist. His mom was a sprinter. So running is kind of it's in his genetics, and I think that's a big part of the position.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to the phones. We have some open lines, folks. 201-939-4513. We have about 20 minutes here to take your calls reacting to the Giants' selection of Jalin Hyatt. And if you want to continue to react to the selection of John Michael Schmitz, which happened only a few minutes ago, that's absolutely fine, too. So get on the line and give us a call. Join Beth Dable and Marie Schoen for Sleep Out Women Unite on Thursday, May 4th to benefit Covenant House, New Jersey. Women will join in solidarity and sleep on the field of MetLife Stadium to support youth overcoming homelessness and survivors of human trafficking. For more information, visit sleepout.org. Mike in Pennsylvania will lead us off today. Mike, what's going on? And Shaun, you're going to bounce out here. We have an interview for you. We'll bring you back at the end of the show. Thanks for being with us. We'll catch up with you in a few minutes. Absolutely. And now Mike in Pennsylvania will join Paul and I. Mike, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hi. We're doing great.
Yeah, I'm amazed. Like, we got two guys that were commonly mocked to us in round one, and Joe made it happen in round 2 and 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at where these guys were supposed to get picked, I was just talking to somebody in the cafeteria in the front office about this, where if you told me on Wednesday that the Giants would get Deonte Banks in round 1, John Michael Schmitz in round 2, and then Jalin Hyatt in round 3, or if one of you guys called up Big Blue Kickoff and did one of those mock draft simulators, I would have rolled my eyes and said, oh, that's not going to happen. That's not realistic. But for once, the dominoes fell right, and the Giants caught a break this year.
You look at these 3 rounds, and you're seeing value and need meshing in all 3 of these picks, John. And, you love for that to happen. That's obviously a home run and a touchdown pass. But then when you look at the consensuses that have been around for the last how many months, many, not everybody, but many of the consensus boards had each of the 3 guys higher than where they landed. So it's really great stuff for the Giants so far. And now, unfortunately, it did cost you a 4th-round pick, though, to go up and get Hyatt, which, again, we talked about as being a very thick round for developmental running backs. Now, if you want to go get one of those, you're going to have to wait to the 5th round.
Yes, and it is a deep running back class, so it's not impossible. Mike, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, no, I think that's really it. I mean, it's pretty amazing. We just gave, a 4th and a 5th and one of those 3 7ths to pretty much get the 3 guys that we wanted. So I'm definitely happy about it.
Absolutely. Thanks for the call, Mike. Appreciate it. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Rodney in Massachusetts. He's up next. Hey, Rod.
Smokey, Paulie, yo.
What's up?
They made it up. They made it up to me, man. They made it up to me.
Oh, that's right. You called yesterday, and you were mad they didn't get a wide receiver.
That's
that was
right.
you. That's right.
Yes, sir.
No, the thing is, not just a wide receiver. I fell in love. I made the mistake. I fell in love with a few guys, JSN, and I was angry, and Addy, that we didn't get them. But they made it up. Let me ask you this. So we don't have a 4th-round pick or a 3rd-round pick. The 3rd round that we used, that's it. We didn't keep ours and just traded. We swapped. What do we do?
No, the Giants traded their 3rd-round pick at 89, and they traded their 4th-round pick at 128 to move up to 73. So the Giants' next pick will not be until round number 5.
Correct. And the other 3rd rounder the Giants had was traded a few weeks ago for tight end Darren Waller in the Raiders deal.
Okay. Well, all in all, I'm happy tonight, man. I can go to sleep with a smile on my face. I'm very excited. Jalin Hyatt, the thing with him is he's a speedster. He needs to work a little bit more on his craft, route running, but decent size, 6 feet, burner. I'm excited. Let's go. Big Blue.
Appreciate the call, Rod. And
John,
go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, clearly the burner, because he's got much more speed and elusiveness than Cedric Tillman, who went on the next pick right after the Giants made the selection. And that tells you a little bit about the game plan and what the Giants are doing.
Well, and by the way, we shouldn't have been surprised based on the guys they brought in free agency who all ran 4.4s.
They decided they did not necessarily need a skyscraper in the room. They decided, you know what, we'll go for another medium range guy who stands at 6 feet and may be able to play not only in the slot, but also play outside. Another medium-range guy added for the Giants with great elusiveness.
Another wide receiver, Josh Downs, a quick, slot wide receiver, just goes to the
A
Colts.
Smurf.
Yes, he is a smaller guy. I like how you like to insult all the small guys.
It's not an insult.
Luckily, Lance isn't here.
You know, Smurfs are blue, too.
2-0.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
201-939-4513. Tim is in Charleston. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, guys, I can't believe it. Yesterday I called. I said I'm over the moon. Tonight I'm over the moon and the stars, and I can actually see them. It's a clear night in Charleston. And, I mean, I just can't believe the way this draft has fallen to us. You know, I thought there was maybe a 5% chance that Banks would fall to us in the first round, and he did. Second round, the three guys I had slated were Schmitz, Tillman, and Hyatt. I was hoping one of those would fall to us. All three of them were there, and we took the center.
Tim, I remember somebody called up yesterday, and they said, "I'll get Jalen Hyatt in the second round." And I said, "Well, I don't think he's going to be there at the end of the second round." And lo and behold, you get him in the third. It's crazy.
And we get him in the third. And you know, I'll tell you what. Joe Schoen is a genius because he knew Cleveland was going for a wide receiver. He jumped up ahead of them, gave up inconsequential, really. Yeah, okay, we would get a depth piece or maybe a better running back, but that's not going to change our season. These three picks change our season, and I am just so happy. And now I don't have to wait for the next pick. I can go home from the bar and get a decent night's sleep, unlike last night.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate the call, my
That's
friend.
good stuff.
Look, I mean, this is just universal praise, and we had one caller that wasn't happy last night, and he called up and he's thrilled tonight. So
Right.
I think we're batting 1,000 with Giant fans so far.
You know, it's certainly very, very positive coming right out of the block. Now, we still have some more to go tomorrow, and there's still undrafted rookie free agents. And, of course, training camp doesn't start until the end of July. But the initial reaction has to be value meets need, and that's always a good thing.
201-939-4513. Great job on the calls, everybody. We are packed lines. Lorenzo is in Orange County. Lorenzo, what's up? Hi. Lorenzo, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're
What
good.
a night. You know what's crazy? You look at Joe Schoen. I think the Eagles have a little bit of competition now that we have a competent GM in there. We ended up getting Deontay Banks the first round. An obvious glaring need is going to be a CB2 right next to Adoree Jackson. You get John Michael Smith. You know, that's probably going to be the best center since O'Hara. I've been watching since I was in 2007. That's when I fell in love with the Giants. And this pick, you know, Jalen Hyatt, what a pick! It's just been a killer draft from Joe Schoen. I'm super excited to see what they're going to do next year.
Yeah, look, and appreciate the call, man. Good stuff. And look, it's great drafting by Joe Schoen. He moved up twice in order to secure two of these players. But you also need the draft to go to the right way, too. And the picks have fallen in a way that have favored what the Giants, Paul, to your point earlier, what they've needed. Mm-hmm. And the value has been there when they've picked. And then in round 3, they said, look, there's a guy that we really think could be a difference maker for us. Let's trade up significantly and go get him. And, you know, you mentioned the other trade they made with the third-round pick to get Darren Waller. So I think it's pretty clear here that Joe Schoen is going to be aggressive in going after players that he thinks can really help this team win, whether they're veterans or they're rookies.
Well, we don't know how many picks he's finally going to use by the time the 3 days are in the books. But remember, he started this draft going into the Waller trade with 11 picks. And, John, he's not going to make anywhere near that many picks.
No.
And we knew that he was not going to make 11.
He is down to 7 right now.
We knew he was, and he may go even fewer. Who knows? But we knew there was no sense in making those 11 picks. Try to see what you could to convert them into players. And we've now learned in year 2 of Joe Schoen what we did not necessarily know next year, and that is he is absolutely not afraid to go get somebody.
I want to bring back in Shaun O'Hara here. He'll rejoin the show. Just finished talking to Jalen Hyatt, and he talked to John Michael Schmitz earlier. So, Shaun, why don't you give us your little report here as we talk about what happened here with your 2 interviews. Tell me about your talk with Jalen Hyatt. Tell me about your talk with John Michael Schmitz.
Yeah, John, we were talking about Jalen Hyatt's explosive ability. Man, he even talks fast. The interview was fast. Everything he does it has speed attached to it. He's like the Ricky Bobby right now. Just, I want to go fast. So he seems like a great kid. He's a spark plug. He's super excited. I think one of the things that really impressed me was the first question I kind of asked him about himself a little bit, what he's bringing to the Giants, and he just said, man, I just can't wait to come win. So I think that's a great little testament into his mindset. Obviously, he had a really big year at Tennessee, but he can't wait to get here and to bring some of those explosive plays. He's looking forward to working with Brian Dable and Mike Kafka. So seems like the kid's got some great personality to go along with that explosive ability. And he kind of gave us a little tease. He said, I asked him if he's got any special touchdown celebrations that he's planning to unveil on the NFL stage. So Giants fans, hopefully we don't have to wait too long for that celebration to come to fruition. But I can't wait to see what he's got in store.
Sean, honestly, I'm surprised he didn't run out. He did have 15 of them last year. I don't know how many new ones he has up his sleeve here.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
It is a very good problem to have.
Did you get the impression that he's got a chip on his shoulder? After all, he was the Bolitnikoff Award winner this past year in the NCAA as the top wide receiver in the country, and some people thought he could sneak into the bottom of the first round, and here the Giants wind up getting him in number 3.
Yeah, he kind of shrugged it off. He said, "Hey, look, I thought I'd go a little bit sooner, but man, I'm really excited to be with the Giants." So, I think it's great perspective on his part. Yeah, look, it would have been nice to go sooner, but I think he knows he's coming into a great fit. This is a great opportunity for him. Wan'Dale Robinson, the second-round pick from last year, coming off an ACL injury. Who knows if he's going to be ready to start the season? So he's got a chance to come in and make an immediate impact as a third-round pick.
Yeah, and then, Sean, you also had a chance to talk to John Michael Schmitz. And by the way, both Schmitz, along with Hyatt and throwing Deonte Banks, were all one of the reported 30 visits for the Giants, too. So you're seeing now the value of those visits with these players, too. What did John Michael Schmitz have to say? Did you guys just have a 20-minute conversation about playing center? Were you guys basking in your offensive lineness?
I mean, John, we did a virtual bro hug. It was two centers. It was like his stepbrothers. Did we just become best friends? Yes. Do you want to go do karate in the garage? Yes. Listen, he's going to fit right into this O-line room. He referenced Bobby Johnson, how impressed he was when he had a chance to talk to him, and Bobby Johnson went and worked him out in Minnesota at his pro day. So I think he had a little inclination that the Giants liked him, and they were kind of hot on the trail to get after him. But I think he's got a great demeanor. We've kind of talked about, look, he's a 6th-year player, so he's mature. All of his answers, he's very workmanlike. He can't wait to come and put in the time, put in the work. I get the feeling that he's just one of those pros. I felt like Evan Neal did a great job last year. When he got drafted, he came in the building, and it's like, look, he was very businesslike, and I get the same sense from John Michael Schmitz. But also, I think he understands. Look, the Giants draft you, for a reason, and he's gonna have a tough task. The Eagles are loading up with defensive linemen. The Washington Commanders have some studs. The Dallas Cowboys have some studs. So I think he's up to the challenge, and I think he can't wait to get to work.
201-939-4513. Let's go back to our very busy phones and say what's up to Leo out in Wayne, New Jersey. Leo, what's up?
Hey, guys, I'm real excited about the draft.
I hope so.
I wanted to know, Paul, you were talking yesterday about Cedric Tillman.
Yes.
Why is Hyatt better than Tillman?
Well, there's a speed component, number one. Obviously, Hyatt, with his quickness and his separation and his raw speed, he provides a little bit of a different element than Tillman does, who's longer stride, deceptive deep speed, but he's not going to give you the kinds of quicks and the jukes and that kind of stuff. And look, it's a preference thing. I happen to lean more towards the skyscraping receivers, but it's clear that the Giants, with their offensive scheme and philosophy, look, we've heard it before from Dable and Shane. Separation is the number one factor that they want to see in a wide receiver, and Hyatt's jukes probably make him a better fit, and that's why they took him.
Yeah, they're really different. They might both have a WR next to their name, but it's almost like they play different positions.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah, 100%.
Really. They're just totally different sides of the spectrum.
Thank you very much for the call. Let's go back to the phones and say what's up to Len in Columbia, Maryland. Hey, Len, I'm sure you're happy today.
This has been a great 2 days.
You got your center, man. Congratulations.
How many years have I been asking for a center?
More than I can count.
Who actually played center. Hey, Paul, just a quick trivia. Greg Larson, was he a Minnesota guy too?
My goodness. Greg Larson came into the league before I started covering, so I can't tell you if he was from the University of Minnesota.
He must be really old.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. I think he was. Hey, well, it's great. I mean, a great 2 days. We got 3 players. I know there's going to be competition in training camp, but it's hard to believe that these 3 guys aren't going to walk out on the field as starters, day one. Give me the numbers on Hyatt. I can't get accurate.
What are you looking for? Measurables? Measurables you want?
Yeah. What are the combine numbers?
Yeah, I got it for you right here.
6 feet.
He is 6 foot and 1/8 inch, 176 pounds. He did weigh in at 184 at the pro day, so he was a little heavier there. Now he did not run at the pro day, so that probably had to do a lot of water drinking to get up to 184.
Yeah.
He ran a 4.4 flat 40, a 1.5 10-yard split. Both are very good.
Okay.
Had a 40-inch vertical and an 11-foot 3-inch broad. So speed and explosiveness abound for him.
Yeah. Okay, well, fits a pattern, and, we need speed at wide receiver. And Schmitz, John, I think you summed it up maybe a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, when you said, we don't necessarily need a guy who's going to be a Pro Bowler, although Kuiper thinks he's a Pro Bowler. Obviously not in his first year, but, that's just his opinion. But he talked like this guy was a Pro Bowler. But, John, I like what you said about a week ago, excuse me. All we need is a second contract guy, somebody to come in and do a solid job, match up against that Eagles front, match up against that Cowboys front. He doesn't have to be a Pro Bowler. Just give us some solid days work in that offensive line. I feel good. It was just time to draft a center who plays center.
Yeah.
And we're on our way. We're on our way. Great 2 days.
All right, Len, we got to run, man. Len,
okay,
we gotta
go.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate the call. 201-939-4513. Let's go to Brandon in New York. He's up next. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, guys. A long-time listener. I've been listening to you guys for about a year now.
Thank you.
I called in at the first reaction to John Michael Schmitz, and I tell you, in my mind, you got Thomas, you've got Neal, and now you've got an anchor in the middle. You've got 3, in my opinion, first-round grades on your line, kind of like the Eagles do. That's the first point. But the second point is I called in earlier, and I was like, for me, you've got Hodgins, Waller, and all these wide receivers to take a guy, a speedster, put him on the outside, and let him run. Hyatt is that guy. What are you guys' thoughts?
Shaun, your thoughts on how Hyatt fits into the rest of the wide receiver core?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a great addition to it. We talked about it earlier. Wan'Dale Robinson coming off of the ACL injury, Sterling Shepard as well. So both those guys, we're not really sure how they're going to feel when the season starts. He's got a chance to make it an immediate impact. I think he's a little bit of a different type of receiver. Wan'Dale Robinson, a little bit shiftier, more acceleration. You're looking for stuff after the catch. I think Jalen Hyatt is a guy that, you're going vertical. You're asking him to stretch the field. You're going to he's going to create that separation that John was talking about with the speed. And I think he's got really great skills once the ball's in the air. He's a go-getter. He's not scared to climb the ladder and go get it, and he's got an extra gear to run underneath it. So I think it's going to be a great addition. And to your point about John Michael Schmitz, look, Daniel Jones, they just locked him up with a big-term contract. Why not protect him, right? It's like buying a really nice house. You dump a ton of money into your house. You want to put a nice security system on the house, right? And that's basically what it is. You've got your tackles. Now you've got your center. I think continuity at the offensive line position is a big part of that chemistry. And really that continuity is what leads to the production. So I think it's a great move for the Giants, and they've got 3 studs already.
Yeah, and I'll just throw this out there too, Paul. The value of having a guy where the other team has to keep a safety over the top because he's so fast will open up things for the running game. It'll open up things for Darren Waller in the middle of the field because the safety has to worry about Hyatt. And it really just changes how the defense has to play you when you always have to have somebody over the top with somebody that's as fast as Jalen Hyatt.
John, we were very impressed by the Giants' playbook this past season. We saw so much during the course of last summer, and then they didn't unveil all of it during the course of the year. It looked like they saved a couple of chapters. But now with the weaponry that they've added, I can't even imagine the kind of creativity that Kafka and Dable are going to be able to unveil on opponents this year. You're talking about Waller. You're talking about that wide receiver room now being enhanced. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is coming back, and we know what he adds to the defense, not just the offense, not just as a running back, but as a multiple-use weapon. This is going to be something to watch.
Yeah, and Hyatt had a 6-catch, 207-yard, 5-touchdown performance against Alabama this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had a couple other big games against smaller schools, but that's a monster one against Alabama. So certainly played in the top conference in the SEC, and he was extremely productive. All right, back to the phones. Josh in Florida will take 2 more calls before we say goodbye. Josh, what's going on?
Hey, first time I've ever called here. I love the show.
Thank you.
I just want to also piggyback on the John Michael Schmidt. Hey, I've been waiting for the Giants to draft a center for a long time. On Facebook, everywhere I talk about we need a center. That unlocks Saquon Barkley. We've also got another good running back by the name of Shaun Corbin, who was on the practice squad.
Florida
He's
State.
a local kid from here, and he is excellent. So I love the pick of the center, and I really thought we would go for a larger wide receiver, but this guy that we picked up, we were very fortunate to get him. He will be he'll open things up greatly and put him with Slayton. Now we got 2 guys who can go over the top. I love it.
Thanks, you. Appreciate the call. We'll wrap it up with Ben in Florham Park. Ben, what's going on?
Yeah, great draft. Great draft. I mean, if you were to mock this out, it would be unreasonable to think that we get these 3 guys.
Absolutely.
One question about Jalen Hyatt. There were some reports he didn't do well in the combine. Is that something that you just dismiss? And then secondly,
didn't do well in the combine. How?
The numbers are pretty
in terms
ridiculous.
of his testing, in terms of meetings.
Yeah, the numbers are really good.
Oh well, no, I because he only ran like a 4.4 something, and then like
4.4. No, see, people see. That's like the expectation game.
Right.
You know, when someone tells you the movie's like the best movie you ever saw, then you go to the theater and it's only good and you're like really disappointed about it.
Yeah.
Well, people were saying Hyatt could run like a 4.29 or a 4.3 run, 4.31, but a 4.40 is still a very good time. So I think that was just more him being a victim of expectations rather than him actually running a 4
He qualifies as a speedster.
Yes, and his game speed, you see him run. Like, if you go and watch his highlights, and I'm sure we have them posted up on our Twitter channel, all that stuff right now, you know, all it is him running past people. That's what his highlights are. What was your second point, Ben?
Yeah, well, and the other question is, is he going to be battling in the slot, or are they going to line him up outside?
I think one of the things about this scheme, and Sean, please, I want you to chime in here.
Thank you.
Dable has said time and time again that he wants all of his receivers to know all 3 positions. He doesn't seem to be married to anybody just playing one position at the receiver slot. Well, shouldn't say slot, at the receiver's positioning. He wants guys to be able to cross-pollinate.
And Sean, I'll say this: even though he played a lot of slot in college, Sean, I think he's, you know, the way his skill set is, I think his skill set is that of an outside
I suspect
receiver.
as much too.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is dictated by the defense, what they're doing. You know, I mean, if they're playing a lot of man coverage, yeah, sure, you might see him in the slot. Typically, the slot corner is your 3rd best corner. So why not have him matched up against the 3rd best corner as opposed to the 1st? But to your point, John, when you look at Hodges and when you look at Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson before he got hurt. Look, they were all over the field. And sometimes they were inside, sometimes they were outside. I think the addition of Darren Waller can help out too. There's going to be a lot of different formations they're going to be able to use now with Waller. Maybe he's lined up as the X. Maybe he's lined up. Maybe you go trips left and you single up Darren Waller on the other side. So, it's based on, all right, here's our formation. Here's where we're putting guys. Now, what's the defense doing? And then that's going to determine who's going to get the ball and who's got the one-on-one covered.
I'll say this, guys. It's going to be really, 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 really hard for the Giants to keep any fewer than 6 receivers on the 53 with the kind of talent that they've added this offseason.
We'll have to see who's healthy, too, at the end of camp to see exactly.
There'll be some pups probably at the beginning.
Sean, final thoughts here. What the Giants did on day 2, a couple of big-time moves, and what they might be thinking about moving forward here.
Well, I'll tell you what, last year we got a chance to see Joe Schoen's first draft class. And when you look at the contributions that he got from top to bottom, and look, there was an injury early on to Marcus McKeithen. Beavers went down early on, but he got production out of all of them. Obviously, Thibodeau, Neal, Wan'Dale Robinson, Josh Azudu started a couple games. Bellinger was a big part of the offense. Dane Belton, Micah McFadden. I expect the same kind of contributions and even more from these guys. 3 guys that I think are week 1 starters for the Giants. That's huge to be able to get 3 of those guys. And I think you have to give credit for Joe Schoen. He didn't stand back and just say, hey, look, whoever falls to us, and we'll just take whoever's highest on our board at that pick. He went out and got these guys. And coming into the draft with 10 picks allows you to have that maneuverability. You have that currency. But you have to give him credit. He was bargain shopping last year. Look, he saw something that he wanted, and he went and bought it. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for going and getting them.
Paul, how about you?
I couldn't agree with everything more with everything that Shaun said, but I'm still curious. I really am about the developmental running back in the 5th round. I'm still curious about that, John. Now they don't have a 4th-round pick. I got to think with that 1 5th-round pick, that's going to be very tempting. I don't think Tank Bigsby from Auburn's going to be there. But then again, the way we've been surprised over the first couple of nights, maybe he'll fall. I'd love to get my hands on him. I just don't think after this latest trade they'll be able to touch him.
Yeah, I'll just say this. I think, Joe Schoen did a great job going and getting a couple of his guys, moving up 1 slot in the 1st round. To Shaun's point, moving up a lot in round number 3, even though it cost him the 4th-round pick. And I think they were fortunate that the draft lined up well, where the Giants didn't just fill 3 needs here, where they said, all right, well, we're going to draft this position, this position, this position. Guys of value or of greater value of their draft slot got to the Giants where they were selecting. And they selected guys of really guys that can step in and play right away, to Shaun's point, that didn't just fill a need. They were good football players. You're trying to draft the best players available, and I think not only were these arguably the best player available at those slots, they also filled needs. And sometimes you have bad luck and the draft just doesn't fall that way. And it did for the Giants to give Joe Schoen and his crew credit for doing it, because the Giants are trying to fill out a complete team here to compete in the NFC East. And I think they took some very big steps yesterday and today to certainly improve in the division.
If I can throw in one more crumb, fellas, I think it's interesting that Joe Schoen actually showed us 2 sides of the coin. He was aggressive, even though it was only going up 1 pick in the 1st round. Very aggressive in the 3rd round, but in the 2nd round, he was as patient as molasses, as John Michael Schmitz fell to him.
In the 2nd round.
In the second round,
yes.
And he did not have to move up. He held his water and was able to get the guy that he wanted. Incredible.
Excellent maneuvering. That's how you are a successful NFL general manager. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on our 2nd special reaction edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live on night 2 of the draft. We'll be back tomorrow at some point in the afternoon. Now, the Giants don't have many picks. The plan was to come on after round 5. We'll keep you updated on our Twitter feeds on when that's going to happen. We'll figure that out. For Shaun O'Hara and Paul Dottino, I am John Schmeelk. Don't forget to subscribe to all of our podcasts, including the Giants Huddle podcast and Draft Season, and leave us a 5-star positive review if you are an Apple Podcast. For the guys, I'm John Schmeelk. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us. The draft continues. Stay tuned to Giants.com, the Giants mobile app, and the Giants social media platforms for all the coverage.